Be in the know with unlimited access to IBJ and Inside Indiana Business. Our in-depth coverage of all things business means you'll always be completely in the know. Subscribe for just $1 a week. Get started now at ibj.com/trial offer.
This is Inside Indiana Business Radio for the afternoon of Friday, February 13th, 2026. I'm Abriana Herron. A new grocery store is coming to downtown Fort Wayne, filling a vital gap for the Northeast Indiana city. Fort Wayne Mayor Sharon Tucker unveiled plans for the new market during her State of the City address this week. Fort Wayne-based Surack Enterprises said it will invest millions of dollars to open a full-service grocery store located on Pearl Street, just west of the Pearl Street Arts Center in the city's downtown. Currently, there are no grocery stores in the downtown area, leaving residents to travel miles to access fresh foods. Surack Enterprises founder Chuck Surack said in an interview with Inside Indiana Business that profit is not his primary motivation for investing in this project.
I'm not doing this for money. The grocery store business is a really tough business and it's hard to make money, but I'm doing it because it's a need for Fort Wayne. And I love Fort Wayne and I love supporting the people in the community. So I hope that it at least breaks even. If it makes some money, that's great, but that's not my goal. My goal is just to provide a really needed service for the thousands of residents that now live downtown.
Construction is expected to begin in April with an anticipated opening date in early 2027. Notre Dame Federal Credit Union is set to merge with Catholic United Financial Credit Union based in St. Paul, Minnesota, the institutions announced Thursday. The credit unions did not provide financial details of the merger, but said the deal, if approved, would close on April 1st. The combined credit union would operate under the Notre Dame FCU brand, serving approximately 70,000 members with approximately $1.4 billion in total assets, the credit union said. Indiana legislative leaders said Thursday that time is running short to make a deal with the Chicago Bears to move their games to Northwest Indiana, but that conversations between the team and state officials have been positive. The Senate has passed Senate Bill 27, which would create the framework for financing a stadium for the Bears, and now the House is considering that legislation. House and Senate leaders say they want a stadium agreement in place no later than February 27th, before they adjourn their 2026 session. Inside Indiana Business Radio on demand is made possible by the following.
Thanks for listening to this IBJ Media podcast. You're probably going to remember this ad. Do you know why? Podcast advertising works. 85% of listeners recalled hearing an ad during a podcast, and 70% of podcast listeners have acted after hearing an ad. So whether you're looking to be heard across the entire IBJ Media podcast network, sponsor one of our shows, or just start with a 30-second ad, IBJ Media can help. Contact advertise at ibj.com to learn more.
Indiana House Republicans have approved a bill requiring local governments to cooperate with federal immigration enforcement efforts. Inside Indiana Business's Alex Brown has more.
House members voted 61 to 28 Thursday in favor of Senate Bill 76. The measure would mandate that city and county officials comply with federal detainer requests for immigrants suspected of being in the country illegally. It also allows the Indiana Attorney General's office to seek civil penalties of up to $10,000 per knowing and intentional violation by government bodies and public universities. County jails would receive a warning in 30 days to correct issues before facing legal action. Bill sponsor Representative J.D. Prescott of Union City says the goal is to ensure Indiana does not become a sanctuary for those violating federal immigration law. Democrats strongly opposed the measure, arguing it diverts local law enforcement from community public safety priorities and places the burden of federal immigration enforcement on local agencies. Representative Cherish Pryor of Indianapolis warned that civil rights are at risk, while Representative Kyle Miller of Fort Wayne questioned whether the legislation aligns with biblical teachings about caring for strangers. About a dozen protesters chanted against the bill from the corridor outside the House chamber during the debate. All House votes in favor of the bill came from Republicans, though 3 GOP members joined Democrats in opposition. After numerous changes made to the bill, lawmakers must come to an agreement on a final version before the scheduled February 27th adjournment for this year's legislative session. Alex Brown, Inside Indiana Business Radio.
Fort Wayne-based BT Pro Solutions, a technology consulting and product development firm, has acquired ZoomQ, a software company based in the Adams County town of Monroe that has developed a platform to streamline school pickup and dismissal. Financial terms of the deal are not being disclosed. The sale comes less than a month after BT Pro acquired Washington-based Spokane Computer. And Friday marks 100 days until the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. Tickets are selling at the fastest pace since the 100th running in 2016, Indianapolis Motor Speedway leaders say. The Speedway announced in a news release Friday that ticket sales are trending up approximately 10% year over year. IMS and IndyCar president Doug Bowles said in an interview airing on this weekend's edition of Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick that there could be a second consecutive sellout.
Where we kind of announced that sellout the last week leading into the 500 last year, I wouldn't be surprised if it's sometime the 1st of May. We are way ahead and ticket sales continue to keep going, and that's a tribute to our fans.
Last year, the Speedway sold out its grandstands for the first time in nearly a decade, and IMS lifted the local TV blackout. I'm Abriana Herron for Inside Indiana Business Radio on Demand.
Whether it's healthcare innovation, major infrastructure, or global sports impact, Inside Indiana Business with Gary Dick tells the stories of Indiana's groundbreakers and game changers. It's the must-listen show for business, civic, and community leaders across the state. Subscribe and listen wherever you get your podcasts or at ibjpodcast.com.
The IBJ Media Podcast Network is the soundtrack of a growing state. Indiana is on the move, and you can hear it happening on the IBJ Media Podcast Network. We bring you the voices at the center of our economy, our courts, our companies, and our communities. Subscribe now and be part of the conversation that's building Indiana's future. Find all of our shows by searching IBJ Media in your podcast app or visit ibjpodcasts.com.